Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Dux-Soup webinar. So, very happy to have you here. And today's topic is going to be on how to manage multiple LinkedIn accounts with Dux-Soup. So we're going to be discussing how to do that. And today's webinar, as always, will be presented by Giles Garnett, the head of professional services. Live chat is being monitored by me, Jen, the head of customer support, and Giles will also be answering all your questions at the end of the webinar, if you will have any, of course. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and let's start our webinar.
Thank you, Jen. Hello, everyone. It's Giles Garnett here, head of professional services at Dux-Soup. So good morning, afternoon and evening to everyone joining us today. Once again, as always, we're very grateful for you joining us, and I hope you're all safe and well during these somewhat unusual times. As Jen just mentioned, today's webinar is how to manage multiple LinkedIn accounts, and we will cover the factors that you need to take into consideration when doing this. So be aware, I know we had a lot of people register for this webinar. The target audience for this webinar is therefore those people, companies or agencies who are managing multiple LinkedIn accounts on behalf of their clients or a number of businesses and that sort of thing. So be aware we're going to be talking primarily about setting up accounts, running activities in different environments, and talking through scenarios as to why you would want to be doing this. We're not going to be covering any of the basic functionality of Dux-Soup today. So just so that everyone's aware that's the topic that we're going to be covering. Our next two webinars, which I'll show on screen later, will be refresher sessions. So in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be running a webinar on Dux-Soup Pro Setup. And in 4 weeks' time, we're going to be doing a refresher on Dux-Soup Turbo and covering all of the functionality there in the meantime. So if you need to refer back to the setup and everything, then we have the webinars. All our previous webinars are available on our website for you to review and watch at your leisure. So for those of you who are still expecting this topic, it's fulfilling your needs, then we'll carry on. Okay, so firstly, who would want to manage multiple LinkedIn accounts? So perhaps you're simply managing some accounts for other people, or maybe you're carrying out lead generation activities for your own business, number of businesses, or perhaps other clients. There are many reasons why you might be doing this, agency activities, or maybe working in recruitment and that sort of thing. So that's the sort of scenarios that we're looking at. We have quite a lot of questions about this topic, so that's why we're focusing on this today. So things that you need to take into consideration when deciding on how to approach this is, how many LinkedIn accounts are you managing? Is it 2 or 3? Is it 8, 10, maybe more? I don't know. You need to think about how intensive are your automation requirements. So the amount of the number of accounts you're going to be managing and how intensive are going to have some sort of impact upon what sort of hardware environment you're going to be using, be that local or possibly some sort of external environment, some sort of VPS, for example. And then when we talk about Dux-Soup and managing multiple LinkedIn accounts, you have to remember that your Dux-Soup account is linked to your Chrome profile or your Chrome account. So Dux-Soup is downloaded via the Chrome store, and therefore whichever Chrome accounts you are logged into at that time will show whatever extensions you've downloaded, installed, and enabled. You also need to be aware that you can only be logged into one LinkedIn account at a time in one browser window. So I can demonstrate that a little bit later as well. We'll do a few slides, and then we'll go into some real life situations and show you how you can set up such an environment. So if you're managing multiple accounts and therefore require multiple Dux-Soup accounts, you need to create multiple Chrome profiles. And it's possible to log into multiple Chrome profiles or accounts on the same computer at the same time, and therefore run actions in parallel. So the sort of system requirements or environment that we need to consider in order to be able to do this, you need to be able to be logged into more than one account at any one time, so multiple in parallel. You need to run automated activities with Dux-Soup in each of those accounts in isolation. You need to support more than just a couple of accounts, presumably if you're running some sort of agency or lead generation activity, lead generation business. So you need some scalability. And also, number 4 there, you're very likely to require 24/7 availability. So in those circumstances, perhaps a local computer or a local laptop may not be ideal for those situations. So we'll come back to this slide in a couple of minutes, and but in the meantime, I'll demonstrate how we can tick these off our checklist, if you like. So first of all, you need to be able to be logged into more than one LinkedIn account at any one time. So that can be achieved fairly easily. So if I now come out of the slides, there we go. So we can see here, hopefully you can see my screen. Let's go to here and let's make my screen a little bigger so you can all see it, hopefully. So here we have my LinkedIn profile. Now, if I'm just to open a new window here, if I just click up here and open a new window, and then I go to LinkedIn again, that will then open my profile again, because I'm still logged in as Giles. Still identifies that that's my Chrome account that's still running on this computer, on this particular Chrome window. So therefore, every time I open a new window, I can only see my LinkedIn profile. And that's because of the way that Chrome works and within a Windows environment and how it handles your cookies. So if I now close that, and if I want to log on to another LinkedIn profile, I can do that by logging on to another Chrome profile. So if I click my my profile button here, and I press the add button here, this then gives me the opportunity to add a person. So I've already created another Chrome profile here, but I can show you how easy it is to do that as well. So if I'm just going to call this one Dux Demo, just for the ease of this example, I'll press add. And what it's going to then do is open me a new Chrome window, but I'm now logged on with a different profile. This says Dux Demo. Now, I need to then sign into my Chrome account, my other Chrome account, in order to make sure that I'm in a different environment as well. Let's change that to English so that we can all see what I'm doing. So if I now in a second, make sure I have the right credentials. Apologies for this. Right. Okay. So if I now type in my other credentials here that I've set up, a separate Chrome account. I've created a new Gmail account in this case, but I'll show you in a minute how you can do that without using necessarily a Gmail account. You don't have to create a new Gmail address. I press next here, and then I type in my password that I've set up. There we go. So now I've logged into a new Chrome window with a new account, and I'm going to turn on sync because I want to make sure that all of the applications, all of the extensions that I download are also appearing correctly in this environment. So you can see over here, I now have a Dux-Soup demo profile open, and you see here I've still got my LinkedIn profile associated with my other Chrome profile or Chrome account. That's still there. So now within this environment, I can now go to the Chrome store.
Giles, I'm very sorry to interrupt. Would you be able to zoom in a little bit? Demio is having issues. It seems that the screen is quite blurry. Thank you.
Will do.
Thanks.
One moment. Let's wait for this to. There we go. If we zoom in a fraction, hopefully that is better. There we go. So I'm now logged in with this this other Chrome profile that I've created, my Dux-Soup demo profile, and I will just carry out what I was going to do, which is to download Dux-Soup into this profile. We'll add that one to Chrome. I'll add the extension. I think this is a step that you're probably quite familiar with. And what this is doing now is this is associating a new Dux-Soup installation with this separate Chrome profile that I've created. And we can see here, it'll ask me to sign in, which is always the case with Dux-Soup. Sign into my account, and I can see I'm now signed in with this Chrome profile address. And I can check that at any time by clicking on my Dux-Soup icon, going to my options button, and then going to user. And you see here the Chrome profile address. Sorry, I'll zoom in so that that's clearer for you. There we go. So under my Dux-Soup options, under user, you can always see which email address is associated with that account. So if I was now wanting to log into another LinkedIn account, I could go to LinkedIn here, and it doesn't remember that I'm still logged in with my own profile on another browser window. I can now log into, let's try and log into another account here. There we go. That's going to check for a verification code, which I don't have to hand straight away, but we can look at that later as well. But so what I can do there basically is have two different LinkedIn profiles open at the same time in the same environment. And therefore, we can now go back to our slides, hopefully. Let's go back here. So we need to be able to be logged into more than one LinkedIn account at any one time. And we can do that by having multiple Chrome profiles. If you were wanting to set up a new Chrome profile, that was an example where I've already set one up. If again I click on here and I press add, and I'll just call this one test. That's rather small, I know, because I didn't zoom in. Apologies. Let's zoom in a bit more. Let's try that again. Add. It's still going to be small in that window. So there we go, and I want to create a new account now. Zoom in a bit further. Enable, in a second, it's a little bit, there we go. So if we were then going to want to create a new account here, we have here the create account button. We would go there. And this is where you could enter your new credentials. Now, you can also use your current email address or a different email address. So in this instance, if you're running your own agency or your own business, you may have a catch-all email account, and you could then start to create a number of different email addresses here associated with each account as you went, in order to be able to allocate one Chrome profile per LinkedIn profile per Dux-Soup instance. And that's how you would do that within your own desktop or local environment. Now, one of the things that is also interesting for people is to be able to run this within a different environment external to their own computer. If you're running, say, 4, 5, 6 LinkedIn profiles, you may not want to do all of that from your own desktop environment, because that would be somewhat resource heavy on your computer. So in that case, you may want to, for example, set up some sort of a VPS. So what we've done here for demonstration purposes is we've created a virtual private server, which I can log on to now. Hopefully you can still see this. I will zoom in when we open Chrome in a second. And we can now, this is a virtual private server. This has been configured. This is a fairly low specification one. But what you can do now is you can carry out exactly the same steps that I've just been doing on my desktop environment, but now in a virtual environment. So it's no longer using my computer's resources in order to run. What we can do then is, if I go up here and I can log on as, let's go to, let's log into the one that we had just now. Let's go back in here. 1 second. So we can once again log into the Chrome profile that I've created. I've installed Dux-Soup already on here. So if I turn on sync, we should see, hopefully Dux-Soup will appear up there. There we go. It's appeared up there. It'll ask me to sign in. At the moment, I only have a free version against this particular profile. But if I press sign in, it will sign me in normally. There we go. And now if I want to manage a LinkedIn account from here, I would then open a LinkedIn account from here. Let's try signing in there. So there, now we have another LinkedIn account being managed in a virtual environment. So this is through the Dux-Soup demo email address that I created. So now what I can do within this environment, I could then run Dux-Soup actions from here. I can run all of my normal activities. I can carry out searches. I can carry out automatic visits, have my messaging going, scan information, revisit data, etc., all from within a virtual server, therefore not using up my own computer's resources. If I now, again, I'm going to add another profile here, so I'll just add my own account here. We can then see the two LinkedIn profiles running in parallel. And I suspect it's going to ask for a verification code. Of course it is. One moment. There we go. So if I now turn on sync, it should now pick up that I have a Dux-Soup extension already against this profile. It'll take a couple of seconds just to load everything up, I would imagine. It's going to pick up my other extensions as well. And the point is that I can now also log into my own LinkedIn account from here. If I sign in here, remember to zoom in, sorry. There we go. So that's my LinkedIn credentials. And there we go. So we're now running, we have Dux-Soup here, we have my LinkedIn profile here, and in another window, see here, we have a separate LinkedIn profile running in parallel. And I can now run Dux-Soup against both of those profiles with automation, with all the normal Dux-Soup functionality in parallel. I could then add another profile to this, etc., and I could continue to build up and have all of this running in a virtual environment, not using the resources of my local computer, therefore giving me much more flexibility to run with multiple accounts simultaneously. So if we just go back to the slides a second, we'll come back out of here. So if we think about what we were looking for as our requirements there. We need to be able to be logged into more than one LinkedIn account at one time. We can achieve that by creating new Chrome profiles. We need to run automated activity with Dux-Soup in each of the accounts. We can do that by making sure we've installed Dux-Soup against each Chrome profile. We can support more than just a couple of accounts. We can start to add more and more and more. And there are some limitations, especially if you think about a VPS, a virtual private server. And the sort of recommendation that we are considering at the moment is that you need probably 1 processor core and 2 gigabytes of RAM per account that you're running. Now, there are all sorts of factors that you need to take into consideration, and a lot of that's around the speed of connectivity and how quickly the web pages are rendering and that sort of stuff. But the biggest bottleneck is most likely to be RAM in those sorts of environments. So if you're running with 8, 10, maybe more LinkedIn accounts, you need to consider the size, the configuration of the server that you're thinking of. And 24/7, if you have a server environment, that should be available 24/7 with appropriate backups being made, etc., etc. So you have more security, that the system is going to remain more stable, and it helps you to also then manage the activities. The thing to remember, though, is even if you put all of this onto some sort of virtual private server and you've got a lot of different accounts running in parallel, it's still really important to remember the basics of lead generation. You still need to put the work in to target the correct sort of audience. You need to be able to pinpoint your target audience, the people that you're trying to connect with, the people that you're trying to message. You've still got to put that work in, and you need to check the quality of your messaging. Do the basic do your basic housework with regards, cleaning up your outstanding invites, and making sure you're still using the throttling and the planner activities to make sure that you keep the LinkedIn accounts that you're managing on behalf of other people as safe as possible. And that's really important, because these people are entrusting you to work on their behalf, and you don't want to you want to make sure you retain that trust, and you're getting you're providing them with a quality service. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover in the slides and in the demo. It was fairly brief today, I know, but Jin, do we have any questions regarding what I've just talked about?
Yeah, I have 2 questions. Well, basically, you answered the second one, which was any recommended VPNs or cloud provider, maybe?
Okay, so if we're talking about a VPS, so if you're looking at a VPS, so a virtual private server, an environment where you would want to host this sort of thing, there's nobody that we specifically would recommend. What I would always say is try and find somebody who's located in your country, because of ease of support, possible language issues potentially, and also the time zones. Think about the time zone that you want your server to be in, where you want it to be set up, depending on where your target audience is. You need to consider those sorts of things. The example that I've used here, where I'm based here in the Netherlands, we're using a local company based also in the Netherlands called TransIP. I think their very basic level of VPS comes in at around €20 a month or so, like that. So that's the sort of money you're looking at for a very basic service. So those are the sort of considerations that you need to think about. Think about the hours that they will be available for support, depending on where in the world you are based. Think about the language, the availability of support, and also backhaul traffic. If they're located closer to you, then being able to manage it is also going to be more efficient network-wise as well.
To use different IP address for each LinkedIn account?
No, that's not something that we've particularly come across that there would be an issue with. Basically, as long as you're logged in with a different Chrome profile, you should be okay there. I think somebody mentioned, I think one of the comments just now that you made, Jin, was around VPNs. Again, it depends on who you're managing on behalf of whom, and locations, etc., etc. You need to take that into consideration when you're setting these things up. but it's not unusual for multiple LinkedIn accounts from an organization, for example, to be communicating via an overall IP address, a single IP address. So yeah, I wouldn't envisage that being a problem.
Does each profile require different Gmail address? That's
No, you don't have to use a Gmail address. You can use your own if you have a non-Gmail address or whatever. If I just go back to let's go here. Let's try zooming in so you can see this a little better, hopefully. And if I go back here, if I press the add button, unfortunately this might be a bit small, but if I add another person here, and when I go to the section to sign in here, let's see if this is, let's try and make it a bit bigger. There we go. If you go to the make new account here, you don't have to create an email address. You can use a different email address here. So if you have, for example, if you're owning your company, if you have access to your company, your organization's email box, and you're able to have a catch-all account, you could, for example, yeah, I don't know, have 1, 2, 3, 4 at Dux-Soup.com, and then you could have, you know, create your own address, email addresses, for example, related to the customer that you're dealing with, or the profile that you're managing, I should say. So you don't have to create a new Gmail address every time. It's just that you need an email address to be able. It needs to have a unique email address to be able to refer the Chrome profile to, and then that email address that you log into here, you would then see would be linked to your Dux-Soup account. So if I now just come back out of here and I go back to my Dux-Soup options, zoom in a bit more, and that will always then, that email address that you've logged into Chrome will appear here, and that's how it checks to see what account you have, whether that's a pro account, a free account, or a turbo account, or whatever. So the email address will be linked to your Chrome account and also back to your Dux-Soup extension that you've downloaded. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's just go back to the slides a second. So I think I mentioned at the start of the call, in 2 weeks we're doing a getting started with Dux-Soup Pro session again. We're having a sort of a bit of a refresher there for all of our new customers, of course, and for anybody who needs a top up. And I believe we've had a couple of releases, a few updates since the last time we did that as well. So there may be some small changes there. And then in 2 weeks after that, we're doing the same with Dux-Soup Turbo. There've definitely been some changes on the Turbo side since we last came round and did a getting started session on that. Yeah, those events are available on the website for you to be able to register for. As always, we have our booster and technical call sessions available for you to book via the website. And if you're struggling with any small technical issues, we have our great, fantastic supports team available, headed up by Jin, who are very good, very responsive on the email and also on the live chat via the website. So if you're encountering problems, then don't feel too scared to ask questions. And yeah, we have a great support team available to be able to help with any issues that you guys have. Useful links, as always: the homepage, the blogs, the webinars, the tutorials, the support, Facebook page, like us, add comments, and yeah, I think that's everything. I'll leave it to Jin to wrap up.
Enjoy the rest of your day and see you next time.